All right, so I think we have enough momentum. Maybe we should start. I hope everyone can see the screen okay. Um, all right, so good day, everyone. Happy Earth Day. Thanks to Lisa Lynn, our Director of Sustainability at OCA, for the kind reminder. Welcome to this Earth Week webinar. Today we're going to talk about loving food, not waste, how to recover and reduce food waste. So just a friendly reminder, this is the second session of our Earth Week webinar series this week. So we're celebrating Earth Month, bringing you many topics on sustainability. So if you haven't registered for the remaining sessions, we encourage you to do so. If you haven't done so already, you must have you mu- you have received an email with the registration link, and we'll make sure to put that in the chat for your convenience later. So my name is Andrea Ayala. I'm from the Office of County Administration with the Sustainability team, and I'll be facilitating today's session. Thanks to those of you who have introduced yourselves in the chat. We're very much looking forward to having this discussion. A little bit of the agenda today. So just some welcome and housekeeping rules and our sustainability goals around food and food waste. Then we have two fantastic guest speakers. So first we have Barbara Bernstein from Second Servings of Houston, who's going to talk about how Second Servings is tackling hunger and food waste in the area. And then we'll move to Laura Smith from the Harris County Library to talk about the composting pilot program and share about some food waste data with us. Then we'll have a Q&A segment. So please make sure to ask your questions, share your thoughts, feedback, and we'll do a little bit of a wrap up and takeaways at the end. So just basic housekeeping rules. Please mute your mic to minimize disruptions throughout the session. Make sure to drop your questions and suggestions in the chat. And last but not least, just engage with the team and our guest speakers today, as this is a very exciting topic. All right, so with that, let me pass it on to Lisa Lynn, our Director of Sustainability.
Oh, thanks, Andrea. And while a lot of the information today that will be shared is stuff that you can actually do on your own, right? Doing kind of food composting at home and stuff like that. A lot of these are also tied to commissioners court priorities. And so we'll kind of do a really high level kind of review of how this ties into some of these major initiatives. So first of all, just want to highlight the county's first strategic plan, which was adopted by court back in October of last year. And so some of today's topic areas around reducing kind of the county waste stream and reducing kind of landfill demand. Through a composting pilot, which Laura Smith will be talking about from the libraries, and then also having access to kind of healthy and nutritious foods, and addressing kind of food desert issues, all kind of integral to what is in the strategic plan. On the next slide, we also have ways that food and reducing waste is tied to our climate action plan and our recently adopted climate justice plan. Again, we are trying to kind of launch a composting program with our libraries and the kitchens and the jail. And so that is kind of one of the things that we're trying to deliver on for our climate action plan. And then with our recently adopted climate justice plan, there is a lot of interest around the community too for access to these types of services, right? How can we make composting more accessible to residents through drop-off events, that sort of thing? And how can we also provide additional education around healthy, local, nutritious foods, either through gardening and kind of educational resources around that. So hopefully we'll provide some really interesting ideas for you all today. So I'll pass it back to Andrea now. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Lisa. So yeah, food waste is not just part of work, it's part of, I think, our everyday lives. So first, we wanted to ask you, tell us, what actions are you currently taking to reduce food waste at home or in the workplace? So please join us by opening menti.com, using the code that's here at the top of the slide. And we'll give it a couple of minutes to see how folks are fighting food waste. All right, so answers are coming in. Buying less, nothing, I bet. All right, we can see some people are composting, that have a compost bin at home and are composting food scraps. That's really great. Please also share your tips in the chat. We would like to learn more about that. Um, only buying what is on your grocery list. That makes sense. I think our wallets would be thankful about that too. Being mindful about my grocery purchases, not buying too much. Planning meals and eating leftovers. Yes, we love leftovers. They make life easier. Recycling, composting, freezing leftovers. Yes, that can definitely get you out of a pickle after a long day. Too Good To Go app. Nice. And don't overeat, save leftovers, and eat them. All right. Thanks everyone for sharing your tips and suggestions. I know that myself, I will take some of these home with me. But now let's pass it on to the experts. So maybe Barbara, now over to you to hear about food waste and second servings.
Okay. Thank you for having me, and welcome to everyone. I wanted to let you know that food waste is a major issue, not only in Harris County, but all over the country and all over the world. In the US, we waste over a third of the food that we produce. That's like going to Kroger, filling your cart with 3 grocery bags, and then on the way to your car, you dump one of the bags in the trash. It just doesn't make any sense. So that's the problem we face, and this waste happens despite the fact that 1 in 6 Houstonians don't have enough to eat. And we're worse off in Harris County than we are across the country, where the food insecurity rate is 1 in 8 people. I wanted to quote Pope Francis, who I often refer to. In 2013, he said the following: "Throwing away food is like stealing from the table of the poor and hungry." That really captures the essence of food waste. And as a society, we waste about 325 pounds per person per year. And that means we're throwing away $728 per person per year, or the equivalent of $14 per week per person. And the economic impact on our country is huge. We waste about $400 billion worth of resources. We're also wasting the water, the energy, the materials, and the labor that went into getting the food from the field to your plate. I want to highlight water because water is such a precious resource, and we waste water that's equivalent to every person in the U.S. taking 7 showers a day all year long. Think about that. And when food goes to the landfill, it decomposes and emits potent methane, which is 84 times the potency of carbon dioxide over a 20-year period. Food waste is estimated to be between 21 and 24% of the landfill, and it's the largest component. But methane being a major driver of global warming, and especially with its shorter lifespan, we can actually slow global warming in the short term by reducing food waste. Andrea? I'm going to talk about the initiatives that Second Servings is taking to tackle hunger and prevent food waste. Second Servings, if you're not familiar with us, I hope you will remember that we are the leading prepared and perishable food rescue organization. You're probably familiar with pet rescue. We do basically the same thing with food. We take unwanted food and find a suitable home for it. We pick up unserved and unsold food from over 400 food businesses, including manufacturers, retailers, distributors, sports and banquet venues, convention center, and many others. And we deliver it the same day to our network of 150 local nonprofits, which include community centers, affordable housing sites, food pantries, shelters, and a diversity of other sites. We serve over 250,000 Houstonians every year and reach virtually people of every age, gender, race, and ethnicity. We include seniors, veterans, the disabled, survivors of domestic abuse and sex trafficking, adults in recovery, university students, and a whole host of other recipients. And since we began in 2015, 9 years ago, we have provided over $103 million worth of food to people in need and cheated the landfill of over 15 million pounds of food. In 2022, when grocery prices went through the roof, as I'm sure you'll recall, we created the program that's pictured on your screen called the Pop-Up Grocery Store Program. We developed it to help mitigate the impact of high grocery prices on people, especially those living on fixed incomes, such as seniors, the disabled, and veterans. We bring high quality groceries, pictured here, rescued each morning from Trader Joe's, Whole Foods Market, Kroger, and some others, and bring it to convenient locations, including affordable housing sites, community centers such as the YMCA's, and churches and assorted other places. Shoppers choose for free from a huge array of fresh groceries, including the produce you see here, meat, dairy, eggs, and much more at no cost. And each time they save between $50 and $150 a month. And we do this on a recurring basis at currently at 45 different locations each month. And we expect to grow that to 60 sites each month if we're able to continue to increase our food supply. And let me tell you, we're just scratching the surface now. So there's a lot more opportunity we see out there, and demand is growing for our food because the pantries recently were notified that they would be getting less food from the food bank, unfortunately, because of federal funding cutbacks. Second Servings was fortunate in the sense that we don't receive federal funding, so we are in good shape to continue to grow. And let me point out the gentleman you might recognize in the center arranging the packages there is the executive chef of the Hilton Americas Hotel. And we are very indebted to the hotel for the support from the Hilton Global Foundation, as well as volunteers from the hotel. Each quarter, they send a group. And on the screen in the left, the photo in the left, in the middle, the gentleman in the middle of the food table is the general manager of the hotel. So involvement happens at every level of the hotel. I want to provide a few practical tips that you can take home with you, and you can operate this way at your office as well. But my biggest tip is don't waste food. Waste less. Don't toss food because of those confusing package dates that may say best if used by, or used by, or what harvested on, or just a date. Archaeologists have found honey in archaeological digs that is still edible. So those dates on the packages end up causing 90% of Americans to throw away food before it's actually unsafe to eat. And there's only one item in the grocery store that's federally mandated to carry a date, and that's infant formula. So everything else is the manufacturer's best guess at peak quality, not safety. And I encourage you to use your senses when you're looking at packages, at your food, to make sure that it tastes good, it looks good, it is still perfectly fine. I am encouraged by your response to eat leftovers. That's a good one. Sometimes restaurants will have half portions. You might ask for half portions. A lot of people are already using their freezer to save their food. So that's a good thing. And I would encourage you to freeze or refrigerate nuts, because that prolongs their life. They won't get rancid. Here's a tip with bananas. Wrap the stems of the bananas, because you will delay the ripening. Most people have bananas at home, and you'll see in the stores the organic bananas will have their stems wrapped. That will help reduce the ethylene gas that ripens bananas. Here's one that you may not know about, which is really my favorite one. If you have a partially used jar of salsa or sour cream, make sure and it goes bad pretty quickly. Here's a tip that will make it last for weeks, if not months. Close the jar carefully, fully, and turn it upside down in your fridge. You're preventing the bacteria from invading through the cap. Ordinarily, a jar would have air at the top. I don't know if you can see this. It would have air at the top, but if you turn it over, the air is now prevented from bacterial intrusion. If you want more tips like this that you may not know about, follow Second Servings on social media and in our newsletter for prevention tips. And at work, you might consider starting a sharing table or sharing bin, or a bin in your fridge for surplus items that you just don't feel like eating anymore. An apple, an orange, whatever it is. Someone might be very pleased to have a snack in the afternoon. And one last thing, if you get food delivered either to home or to your office, and you have utensils handy, tell the restaurant to leave out the utensils. We get a lot of people bringing us utensil kits that are costly and wasteful if you have access to utensils. So I encourage you to come up with creative food waste prevention tips yourself and send them to us. We will post them and spread the word. So thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Barbara. That was a great presentation, very visual. Made me hungry, but I know it's also because it's lunchtime. And thanks for everyone for putting your tips in the chat. I'll make sure to just use those at home, especially the inverted cap one. I had no idea. All right, so let's get more tips now and pass it on to Laura for her presentation. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Okay, and then I will share mine. Okay. So hi, everyone. I am Laura Smith, and I work for the county library. I'm a collection development librarian is my full-time job. So I get to help pick out all the awesome books and things that we have in our collection. But I'm also the sustainability team lead. So HCPL, let me put it more in presenter mode so you can see the actual presentation here. So if you're not aware of it, and you probably aren't unless you work in the library, the Sustainable Libraries Initiative is a way that we can work through and kind of look at how we're currently operating and look at changes we can make. And as we work through that certification process, at the end, we become certified as a sustainable library. And a lot of what we're doing in that program aligns with what is being done at the county level with the Climate Action Plan and the Strategic Plan and the Climate Justice Plan. So I have been extremely grateful to be able to work with the Sustainability Division on a lot of this work, because it's really helpful to know what the county plans are, so I can tie that in as we're going through and looking at how the library works, because we're managed by the county. So if you've never heard of the triple bottom line definition of sustainability, that's what the Sustainable Libraries Initiative is built on. And one of the pillars is environmentally sound. And that's what we normally think of when you hear the word sustainable, or a lot of people, they think about the environmental aspect of it. One of the other pillars is socially equitable. So the picture you see there, that is a local environmental advocacy group in the Galena Park area, working with kids at our Galena Park branch last summer on a program about air quality in their area. So they're kind of testing the capacity of their lungs to blow air. And so it was a whole week-long program where the kids got to learn about the air quality, and they taught them about how to use the Air Alliance cameras and to see what the air quality was in their area at the time. So it was a really cool program, and it taught the kids a lot. So that's something that's socially equitable. It talks about, all our different communities have different aspects, and we want to make things as equitable as possible. And then the last pillar is economically feasible. And so that pillar is kind of like, we're not going to go out. I tell people, we're not going to go out and buy a brand new electric vehicle when the ones that we have right now are still working fine. So we're not going to just jump in and do the new flashy thing, even if we really want the new electric vehicle. We're being responsible with our money and making the best decisions that are the most environmental and socially equitable and economically feasible. We want to pull into all three of those as much as we can. So if you're interested in learning more about the initiative itself, I've got the website down there. And I've also got the link there to our library sustainability policy that goes a little bit more in depth into that. So as I mentioned, through part of that work, we have been aligning, looking at our operations, see how they align with the Sustainable Libraries Initiative, but also how they align with the county's Climate Action Plan and the Strategic Plan and the Justice Plan, Climate Justice Plan. And so, as was mentioned, part of it is looking at our waste stream. And so, libraries being public buildings, we have a lot of people come into our buildings on a daily basis, in addition to all the waste that's generated by our staff. And so one of the very first things we need to do is to get data on that waste stream. And so this is one of the things that, I will be honest, I was a little nervous about tackling these. And I was we have a mentor for the Sustainable Libraries program. And I was like, really? We got to dig through the trash. Do I need to do that at all of our branches? And so, because we've got 27 now. And so what we came up with was, we decided to try and focus on a small branch, a medium branch, and a large branch. And we wound up doing another extra one. And then I'll mention later, we'll probably wind up doing a couple more. And so you may wonder what's involved in a waste audit. So it is really very basically simple, just telling the custodial staff to please not take away our trash for a set period of time, and then getting some awesome volunteers to come help. And we break open the trash and start breaking it down into categories. So we're looking at what could have been, all of these, for the most part, wound up in our trash cans in our building. So what could have been recycled? Was it paper? Was it aluminum? Was it glass? Was it plastic? What could have been composted? Was it food waste? Was it like napkins that could have been composted? What just has to go in the landfill because we don't have any way to reuse it, that sort of thing. So we had all these categories, and we're sorting out the trash. And that's 2 days worth of trash at our Aldine branch. And we did this in September. And even at 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm sure you can imagine that it was kind of hot and muggy and steamy there. But that was our very first waste audit. And once you see a few big bags, that once you open up those big bags, there's a bunch of little bags inside there. So one of the things that I think this made a lot of us become more aware about was the fact that we want to try and consolidate our trash and not have so many of those little plastic bags that have one little thing in them get thrown up in the waste bin. That's just a lot. There's a lot of little learning things, but you can see here at the pie chart, this kind of breaks down the categories, the broad categories. So recyclable and compostable, those two combined, that means over half of the waste stream could have gone somewhere other than the landfill if we had the means in place to do it. So that is our very first one. Those are our brave volunteers who first stuck up their hand and said, yes, they dig through the trash with me. So I'm very grateful for those people. One of those is my boss, and she didn't want to go through kitchen trash, and she wound up having to go through kitchen trash. So she gets a gold star. This is from our tiniest branch. This is our Stratford branch out in Highlands. And as you can see, there were 2 of us who did this one. That is Fred, who is our circulation manager. So he and I tackled this one, and it took us maybe an hour or 2. That's all the trash that they had because it's such a teeny tiny branch. And as you can see, almost 70% of theirs was recyclables because they had a lot of paper stuff. So that's the teeny tiny branch. And then this is the biggest branch that we did a waste audit at. And we've got here featured at the front on the left, that's our library director, Edward Melton. He jumped in and he's helped us out with a couple of the waste audits too. And so we had lots of volunteers. Many of them were going to a meeting in our administrative office later that day. So they were probably relegated to a smelly corner. But we are really grateful that Edward jumped in and he was in there digging around. And there's often lots of existential crisis type questions where they're like, is this recyclable? I don't know. What do you think? And discussions on, well, if it's this recycling center, yes, they take that. So let's say it's recyclable, so lots of using your head and trying to decide, and sometimes pulling stuff out of the wrong piles. So this is, again, 2 days worth of trash at one of our biggest branches. This particular branch has some staff-led recycling efforts, so we did wind up bringing in addition to the trash that we asked the custodial staff not to take, we pulled the employee recycling from their break room as well. So again, it comes out to being over half of it that could have been either recycled or composted. The last branch we did was our North Channel branch, and you can see Edward jumped in and helped again. And some of we have some of the OCA Sustainability Division staff there that helped out as well, and interns. So that's the last library one that we did. And so this last slide here shows the overall data. So again, over half of it. When we look at that's just the library stuff, but these trends kind of have held up with the other waste audits as well. And you can see me and my coworker Hannah there are digging coffee grounds out of a K-cup, so we can try and put those in the compost pile. We wanted to get as much in there as we could. So as Barbara was talking about the food waste, so when we were presenting, we were talking about what you hear: reduce, reuse, recycle. And so, as Barbara said, our first goal is really to reduce food waste. So all those things that leftovers and sticking to your grocery list and all of that. So that's the reduce aspect. The reuse would be when Second Servings gets a hold of it and they are able to redistribute it out into the community. And so I'm saying the last step would be composting or recycling. And so the compost pilot. So that's, again, ties back into the county's climate action plan, and I believe also the strategic plan. And so we use data from the waste audit to support the fact that we think composting could be a success, because as y'all saw, that was a portion of the stuff going into the landfill that doesn't need to go into the landfill. So we are in the process of getting that worked out and finalizing everything. And the kind of pillars of the composting pilot, or the main goals, are to have back of house composting at several of the library branches, and as Lisa mentioned earlier, the county jail kitchens. And so that would be all the stuff that's generated, at the jail by the kitchen staff, and at the library by our staff, either, their own food that they bring from home for their lunch breaks or snacks, or also if we have a program at the library that has snacks and foods and things like that. So that would be our back of house composting. And then we would have periodic community drop-off events. And so that's where whatever vendor we work with would send their staff out, and the community could come in and bring their food waste to be composted. And there's going to be a lot of education around composting as well, because as you can see, we've got listed there composting workshops for Harris County residents. So the library, a big part of what we do, this is why it's part of why we get involved in sustainability, is our role is to really educate and to share information to the people in the communities that we serve. And that's part of how we try to make resilient, strong communities, which is a big part and a big focus of the Sustainable Libraries Initiative, is resilient communities. And so the more that we can do to share information about either resources or practices that can make our community stronger, that's what we're all about. And so the composting workshops are something that I'm very excited about. So that will be a component of that pilot. And then another big part of it is to gather data, and we can use that data to, now my little box here is covering my slide. So we'll use that data, oh my goodness, I'm sorry, to inform implementation of composting services on a larger scale across county facilities. That's the ultimate goal. So we start small, and then we use that data to scale it up. So those are our hopes for the composting pilots. That's why big part of why we're digging through the trash, and we'll probably do it a few more times. And I think I saw a comment go through that they're fun. And I know it might sound weird to say that digging through the trash with a group of people is fun, but it really is. It really is fun. People look at me weird when I say that, but trust me, it's fun. So if you get an opportunity to volunteer to help out with one, I highly recommend it. You'll learn a lot. You'll probably think about your throwing trash in the trash can habits in a new way. Like, please pour liquids into the sink before you throw them into the trash can, because those of us who are digging through it don't really love it dripping all over it as we're going through it. And I'm sure the custodial staff don't either. So my last slide here is some composting resources. So these are, if you want to go ahead and get started investigating how you can compost yourself, the Natural Resources Defense Council has a Composting 101 site that I've got there. Take Care of Texas also has a basics of composting. And then lastly, on our library's YouTube page, we have a recording of one of the Harris County Master Gardeners Green Thumb gardening series. They have one that focuses on soils and compost. And so that's a kind of local one where you can hear about somebody from Harris County talk about composting. So those are some of the resources for do-it-yourself. Of course, there are also vendors out there that you can use if you prefer to not do it at home. So those are some of your options, and I highly encourage you to, first reduce your food waste, and then try to get it to or if it's at such a level that you have control over something where it would be helpful to second servings, do that, and if not, composting, so that it's becoming, at least going back into the earth. So I will stop sharing and then check and see if there were any questions. Oh, thank you for pasting the links in the chat. So what cannot, for what cannot go in a compost bin, that really kind of varies, honestly. A lot of the advice you'll see is not to put meat or dairy in there because it attracts rodents. So a lot of times if you're doing your own at-home one, they recommend that you don't do that. I am currently using a composting service, and so mine gets picked up once a month. And they will take meat and dairy because they have the infrastructure there to administer high enough heat and also to kind of keep it away from rodents. So they accept that. So I'm able to put that in my bucket for that. And then it also varies. A lot of times you'll see, this is a tip I will tell you, because I planned my parents' 50th wedding anniversary in 2023, and I wanted to not use disposable plateware and things like that. So I started really looking into the compostable bioplastics, and honestly, they're not really. We don't have. I even contacted some of the local composting vendors and was told they didn't take them because they're harder to break down. And so it takes a lot of energy, I think, to break those down. And so a lot of places don't take those. So be aware of that. And if you're working with a vendor, yeah, it's also the fats. And so if you're working with a vendor to pick it up, you might check with them and see what they take. If they take other types of compostable packaging that's not the compostable plastics, that might be an option, but it really does vary. I have a weird byline on a composting article with the Galveston County Master Gardeners because of a project that I was partnered with on an event where we kind of did, somebody who's a master gardener with them did a test project on some compostable plastics that we did for an event, and with that specific purpose in mind. And he is very attentive and good about flipping his compost and everything. And he got it to break down after a few months, but it still left a film behind. And that was one of the ones that's made out of corn, I believe. So it really does vary. But I would say for your at-home composting, probably not the meat and dairy and not those supposedly compostable disposable items. So bread, yeah, usually bread and pasta are taken, at least because when you're composting, you need a mix of brown and green, and you need more of the brown than you do the green. And if you get that right, then it's not smelly. That is what I have been living in an apartment until recently, so I haven't been able to, I would take mine to my parents' house and let my dad take care of it. So I haven't been the one responsible for it yet, but you need to, if you don't have enough like leaves and things in your yard, you can use like cardboard boxes, like your Amazon, if you have Amazon boxes or somewhere. That's so you need that that mix in order for it to turn into true compost and also not be smelly. So yeah, we've got lots of good advice coming in here. Yeah, the more you break things down, even if you're adding leaves and twigs and things like that, the more you break it down, the easier it is for it to compost down. So okay.
All right.
That's it for
Thanks, Laura. And thanks
Mhm.
everyone for your great suggestions. I'm also learning a lot in the chat. For example, I had not thought about breaking down hard materials, and I'm thinking I should do the same as well. Maybe that's why my composting is not working so well or taking too long. Yeah, so I think maybe we'll open up for Q&A just generally. And for those, I see some questions in the chat, but also feel free to raise your hand and unmute yourselves to ask your question to our speakers. Maybe Rosa's question, when will the composting pilot scale up to the other libraries?
Hey, Rosa, we haven't decided, we haven't finalized which libraries yet. Like it hasn't actually started yet. So we will, we'll let you know if Bear Creek gets picked. And I see Teresa's comment about dryer lint. I was told that at one point, but I've also read that dryer lint is not good because of the chemicals that can be in your dishwashing detergent or in the fabric of the things that you are washed. But I've also read that it can be used to like kill weeds like you can do with cardboard. So you can use it that way is one of the other things I've heard. Oh yeah, I see Rosa put that. How long does it take for the compost to be ready for use? I think it depends. I would look at some of those resources. It can take a couple of months or several months. Sometimes I think even longer. Part of it depends on, you know, how good you are at keeping it going. Like I think it needs to be turned a lot. So I've read like those, if you're not going to be, you know, flipping it with a rake or a shovel from like one bin to another regularly, a tumble composter is pretty good. And as Rosa has just mentioned, the vermicomposting if the worms don't freak you out. I have some friends who love their vermicomposting, and I was like, I don't know if I want the worms. We don't, so there's no countywide recycling, so there's not any recycle bins that I'm aware of that will be put in the Baldwin Betcher branch. I would love to have it, but right now any recycling that's done at our branches for the most part is just employee led of their own recycling. So that's how that is rolling out. But please feel free to say you would love to see recycle bins at Baldwin Betcher. I think we all would love to see that at all the county facilities.
All right.
That's great.
Lots of great
Yeah,
tips
Brett.
in the chat. I'm waiting for composting
you.
to lead to community gardens everywhere, for sure. All right. Any other questions? Otherwise, keep sharing your tips in the chat. This is all very helpful advice, I think, just also for us to take at home. All right. Thanks, Lisa, for answering some of the questions too. I realize some of those are a bit technical. Nice to back them up with data like the waste audits. Good. All right. Keep them coming. Otherwise, we'll move to the next question of the day. So let's see. Let me share my screen. All right. I realize we shared a lot of information, lots of helpful advice. You did so as well. So please tell us, in one keyword, what is one thing you learned today about food waste and its impact? There was lots of food for thought. So just want to gauge some interest. So please join menti.com again using the code that's on the screen. And we'll give up folks just a couple of minutes to share a bit about the nuances of the session. Yeah, I can see Cassandra in the chat put the 3 ways to sort for recycling, how to preserve, prevent food waste. Nice. Solutions, creativity. Yes, as individuals, we can do so much with every meal almost. Saving leftovers. Salsa tips. We all love our salsa and chips. And then I'll pull up some from the chat. Expiration dates are not necessarily set in stone. Yes, let's keep using our nose, our ears, our taste buds to check if something has gone really bad. Pop-up grocery stores. I thought that was a really cool model. Very visual, very comprehensive. Savings, the inverted caps. There we go, Barbara. Thanks for the advice. It's coming up in the word cloud.
One thing I didn't mention was that we operate 7 days a week with our pop-up grocery store program. So if you are interested in volunteering to work at a pop-up, it's a 2-hour fun experience and you get to interact with the shoppers and help them perhaps demystifying some of the food they may not be familiar with. So we get arugula or hummus or things that are not commonly found in certain groups' fridges. And that's always a fun interaction.
Thanks, Barbara. And I can see Lisa put the link to the Second Servings /volunteer page in the chat for those that are interested as well. All right. And then last question of the day. What is one action you will take home to help reduce food waste? Like, what is one key thing?
And one thing I failed to mention is that the greatest amount of food waste comes from the home. 35% is estimated to happen in homes. So I appreciate you all listening today and trying to do better at home.
Refrigerate or freeze your nuts. That's really good. There we go. Wrap bananas. Try a small home compost. Meal planning and grocery shopping with intention and sharing food. Freezing food.
Another tip I'll offer for free is organizing your refrigerator to optimize longevity. Most people will store their milk, for example, in the door. Well, it seems like the reasonable place, but that is the warmest place in your fridge. So it's recommended to put condiments in the door, but put your milk in the bottom shelf in the interior of the refrigerator because that's the coldest place.
And I see Pilar in the chat is saying because heat rises. Nice. So just adding to that tip. I did not know that either. All right. There's a question in the chat. Please keep providing your inputs, but I think that question is for you, Barbara. The second servings pickup at community gardens.
We work with Planted Forward as a business. We would love to work with community gardens if it could fit into our schedule and theirs. If they're attended community gardens, we would love to be able to work with them. We have refrigerated trucks. I didn't get to mention, we have refrigerated trucks and we don't store anything. So it maximizes the food freshness and minimizes cost. So that's our model, same day pickup and delivery. You can get in touch with me through our website on the contact page, and we would love to be in touch.
Great. There we go. Thanks, Lisa, for sharing the contact information for second servings. We have one more question from Sonia now. Is Harris County working with the growers at the post downtown and their once a month farmers market? I don't think any of our the old post office. I don't think any of our departments are. I don't know if you have any information, Lisa, or not currently. There we go.
Yeah, I mean, it's managed by Blackwood Land Institute, but that's a great idea. We should definitely look into that. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. All right. So if there are no more questions, maybe we'll give folks a few extra bonus minutes, considering it's lunchtime as well. And we've been talking about food for almost an hour. So we just want to thank you for joining us today. We are here to help the sustainability team. So we leave there us our contact information as well for any questions you might have, or just to tell us anything you would like to see next. We're grateful for your time and your great suggestions as well. We'll see how we can like document those and share those back with everyone who joined us today. So thanks again to our wonderful speakers as well. We have Lisa, Barbara, and Laura on the call. Yeah, and we'll keep in touch throughout the rest of the week during our Earth Week webinar series. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.